Hi there. In a surprise turn of events, the Writers Guild of America has actually voted to go on strike as of midnight yesterday. For our purposes as a Game of Thrones franchise channel, Variety just put out an article saying that they talked to anonymous sources from production on House of the Dragon Season 2, who assured them that it wouldn't really affect it that much because the scripts are already done. Principal photography started 2 weeks ago. And they've been putting out various articles like that specifying we're already filming, we already have finished scripts for a couple of different shows, like same situation for Lord of the Rings of Power Season 2 over at Amazon, that they put out an article saying, look, we're already filming, the scripts are done. And, there's spy photos for Lord of the Rings better than what we have, but we have spy photos too. There's sets they're filming on, at least in studios, that they're already at the filming phase. Of course, the clickbait channels just read that off verbatim without analysis. Thankfully, like real news channels have been pointing out, what about rewrites? Not just me, like Westeros.org pointed this out, other ones, just everyone in the Twitter threads, that you don't just have a finished script that you hand in. Even the table read doesn't normally look line for line like what the final version will look like, because sometimes they tweak dialogue, the writers on their own or in consultation with the actors, just as the organic outgrowth of doing a couple of takes, you realize something fits better. This wouldn't, restructure the entire season at the last minute. Season 5 Dorne. No, I'm saying it's just dialogue refinements that are like a really intense Rhaenyra Allison scene where you're hanging on every word, the exact tone, the exact delivery, the gestures of it might be affected by that. And that is a concern that's been raised. But you see how I'm going back and forth twice here that, well, the article said everything is fine. Things will be fine, but not for the reasons they gave. That there is a concern about the reshoots, and the purpose of this video is the reshoots won't be a problem. That any necessary rewrites and reshoots will happen. It's not a question of will they rush through something at low quality, it's a question of how much will this delay it. And the answer is really not that much. It won't come to that because while there are some knee-jerk comparisons, this blindsided everyone, they didn't think we'd come to an actual strike. Things are very different now in the TV industry compared to 15 years ago, the last strike in 2007. When I remember it was so weird when TV shows would have bonus content on YouTube or on their website. It was so novel. And they said, we're not getting paid for this. We should strike over it because it was just this utterly new thing to have webisodes. And now everything is streaming TV. It's not on cable TV, that it's streaming platforms and stuff. That's totally changed the industry in major ways that this won't play out the same way. It won't really hurt it. There's two major related reasons that this won't really affect House of the Dragon. First is, and these are both related, since so much stuff is streaming, and it's Premiere TV with Peak TV, major Emmy-level TV shows don't come out annually like clockwork at the same premiere every 12 months anymore. There used to be rigidly defined TV seasons. Now they come out when they're finished. That to stand ahead of the pack when you're Peak TV, you need to have, it's like film quality, but as a TV show, it takes longer to film, which means that you don't have an annual production cycle. A couple of weeks ago, I made a video about House of the Dragon's new generation of Emmy competition. And I'm annoyed when people go, oh, House of the Dragon's coming out more than a year apart between seasons. I went, yeah, that's the industry standard now. Name another Emmy-level show that's premiering every year the same, every April. That isn't a thing anymore. I looked at Severance, Yellow Jackets, Crown, a bunch of other shows, and just went, the standard now is a year and a half to a full 2 years between premieres of different seasons. That's normal now, because it takes that long to make. And Ryan Condal himself has remarked on that, the peak TV is so quality over quantity that they're taking their sweet time to get it right. That he used to work in cable TV for USA's Colony show. And he said, like, we bang out an episode in a day or two and it'd be more episodes. It's so weird for Emmy-level TV, like, it takes a whole day to film one scene that's 2 minutes long. Because so much thought goes into the nuances of every line. It's rewatchable like a movie, because it's that level of quality and the cinematography and so many little details in it. That because of this, that things aren't rigidly coming out every fall season. The big fall season premieres used to be a thing. It isn't anymore. In the age of peak TV, streaming TV, it's more normal for shows to just get delayed. To have a delayed premiere, to push it back, rather than rush it through production. And particularly because of everything that went on in the pandemic, things got delayed a lot. And we've specifically seen that HBO, the new HBO, thankfully, the new leadership is willing to do that with House of the Dragon, that they were willing to go, the pandemic messed up filming on season 1, take more time to do it right. And it was originally going to have a spring premiere. They pushed it to summer, rather than rush it out by spring to meet an artificial deadline. And all the stuff we've been talking about for season 2, that they wanted to have a firm plan in place for the series structure as a whole for every season through the end. Rather than just rush into, we have to start filming season 2 right now to have it released by a certain target date. They said, let's go on break for 2 months, February to March, for planning sessions to figure out the structure of the series through season 4 or 5 or whatever. Because they were more concerned with planning it out and doing it right than rushing it through production. So there isn't as much pressure. It's not a question of, will they rush this through without the reshoots? They will add time to the filming schedule for those reshoots and rewrites they need. It's a question of how much will it be delayed. Which leads us to point 2, related to that. The 2007 strike lasted about 100 days. That's 3 months. House of the Dragon Season 2, which is considered short because it's only 8 episodes instead of 10, was originally, up until this point, slated to last from mid-April to mid-October. That's 6 months. And the last writer's strike was 3 months. That, I said, times have changed. That in 2007, that would have been a crippling blow because filming schedules weren't that long. For most of the run of Game of Thrones, when they had 10-episode seasons, ironically, the last 2 seasons took even longer to film because they were giant action scenes filmed like a movie, but even though there are less episodes. But season 1 through season 6, very consistently, the writing phase was late July to late November. That's 4 months. As recently as 2014, 2016, that they'd all go to Comic-Con mid-July. They go, we're going off to film next week. They go film, and it'll be end of November, early December, the wrap, because Game of Thrones and a lot of other shows then used what's called the American model or the Los Angeles model, which is work them till they drop. That you'd have people filming 12 hours a day, there wouldn't be weekends, and they'd be exhausted to meet these artificial release dates of how the hell did Game of Thrones put that much content out on an annual basis, and even they couldn't keep up with it by season 7, is stunning to me. But, well, not really, because you saw, like, season 5 and 6, little details, physical continuity on screen was falling apart. There were a lot more errors in it. Not just coffee cup stuff, but a lot of things. That director Greg Gaitan has talked about this a lot in season 1. I've made videos about it, that we switched to the European model, which is strictly 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. Don't work the crew ragged. We want them working smarter and energetic, because when they're exhausted, they make mistakes. And then we do have emergency time on the weekends. If there's a disaster, everyone will come in and fix it. So with that level, and also just the general, we need higher quality movie level stuff, which I think that helps. It's film. That's the type of schedule a movie does, where you're not just filming continuously. Most shows these days take more than 4 months to film. It's 6 months. Look at the filming schedule for other things like Lord of the Rings. Now, season 1 of House of the Dragon did face COVID delays that it technically started in April and until the following February. They said that was because of the Omicron spike. It was meant to go April to December for a 10-episode show. That's still like an 8-month shoot or something, and we're talking about a 3-month writer's strike delaying rewrites for quick, on-the-spot reshoots. That isn't really a problem. That if we lost 3 months out of the 4-month filming cycle for Game of Thrones, that would really affect things. But yes, the submitted pre-refinement, their in-hand scripts are done. That is true, and they're not really slanting it the wrong way. We do need, any production needs rewrites and reshoots. They usually factor those in and do them near the end of filming anyway. That they slate the last month is mostly pickup shots for things we wanted to redo. So, if this lasts another 3 months like the other one, this strike might last through July or August. They're still going to do, they do the fall filming. They don't film as much in midsummer because of the heat for the costumes, but if it's anything like filming on season 1, there's going to be this big burst of filming in September, October. A lot of it will be pickup shots. So it's not really a question of will they be legally allowed to do rewrites and reshoots. It's, will they be able to reconfigure, juggle around, and reorganize their schedule to efficiently fit those in come October. Well, we saw that with how they handled the pandemic in season 1. They didn't tell us as much as they were embarrassed about it, but the sets were not done when they started filming. Because of the pandemic, that there were production supply shortages. There physically wasn't enough timber to build the Red Keep set. Wasn't finished until July. So they said, screw it, we'll film the exterior locations out of order, we'll film those first. That's why the first spy photos were from the Driftmark episode on the beaches, because the sets weren't finished. That Benioff and Weiss were idiots with officially no prior experience working in the TV industry. How they could not have risen to this challenge. House of the Dragon has a team of not just the writers, but, well, also that the writers aren't micromanaging the production logistics team. They're working hand in hand. Sapochnik was doing that. They have other directors on now. We're able to juggle, okay, let's move our schedule around. So this is this year's pandemic, as it were, of, okay, we'll just reshuffle those reshoots to the end of filming. The strike should be done by then. And realistically, I mean, they're reshoots. They wouldn't take that much longer to film. I think this might end up with maybe another month being added to the filming schedule through the end of November. And we've been back and forth on how long filming this season would be anyway, that I made a bunch of production videos I'm going to have to throw out now because they're all out of date. But originally we heard they were aiming for maybe November, December, but when they said 8 episodes, just last week, Redanian Intelligence, the big reliable Witcher fan site, said, we have confirmed from multiple contacts they're aiming for late September to early October to finish, which is really ahead of schedule. That originally, there was a good chunk here for like 2 months where I've been reporting I think they're going to be filming through late November to December. And the only thing that changed was a few days ago, I didn't get it out in time. I made a video going, well, Redanian says that's been updated to October. It's just been pushed back to November yet again for the second time. Okay, probably November end date. Difference of maybe a month. It doesn't really affect anything. They're just a slight extension to that, not even pushing it into a different cycle, because it was really moving ahead of schedule. And I'm going to throw out the other video, but the short version was this. I said for people going, oh, no, it's going to come out in spring. The clickbait channel's going, it has to come out in spring. Why? Because it's easy to make clickbait about something premiering immediately because it doesn't require analysis. The off-season is when we do analysis videos. If you just want to go, wow, that episode was awesome, and just report on trailers and stuff and go, wow, this was cool. Anyone can make that. You're not contributing anything unique. And it's those type of channels, and there's more than one, who are lying to you saying, I've seen them convince themselves that season 2 would be out by this fall, okay? It gets pretty silly. But I said that there are specific reasons why it probably wouldn't come out earlier, and I said apart from that, HBO's Casey Bloys himself said in February it won't come out by spring. It won't come out in that Emmy cycle. And he might, now that I think of it, he might have been factoring in his fears that there might be a writer's strike, because they knew the negotiations were coming. Maybe, maybe not. But he was hesitant. He said as early as February it's not going to come out by spring of 2024. And in the article saying there's 8 episodes, it did reiterate Bloys said it's coming out summer 2024 a month ago. But apart from that, I said there were 3 reasons why they wouldn't do it, and the first one was the production scale of every season always increases. I mean, in terms of physical stuntmen filming battle scenes that we didn't really get in season 1, like battles with horses take a long time to film. Working with animals is difficult. Horse charges, we'd see that in season 2. Like the filming on Long Night and Battle of the Bastards. I also pointed out that they used up 2 months on that planning session that resulted in season 2 being 8 episodes, because we think they took one season of 10 episodes and expanded it to 16 episodes and split it into 2 batches of 8, is what, based on spy reports, we think happened. That this was the point. They always thought this is where we could expand it into 2 seasons to get 4 in all. Maybe. But I said they used up time on that, and the production scale is bigger. So the video I just threw out was me saying, okay, apparently because I trust and have faith in Redanian, apparently even despite those 2 things, they still think they're going to be done by October. I said a remaining factor is that post-production is still going to take 6 months. Possibly longer because there's more CGI every season. And that, okay, maybe they're right on the edge. That if it takes, season 1 had 6 months of post-production. Even if this is just 6 months, it would probably take more because there's more CGI. They might get it out by, like, the first week of May, like, right before the cutoff date. That the first episode of an 8-episode season could premiere on May 5th, no later. And I said that went from being ridiculous to within the realm of possibility when they got 8 episodes and given this production timeline. That's not happening now. It was right on the edge where I said maybe if they rushed it. That wasn't even the third reason I gave, which still stands. Third reason they wouldn't want it out in spring anyway is, why rush it out to be in the same Emmy cycle as the juggernaut final season of The Crown? Why would you want them to compete against each other? So, with this slight delay, the point is, we were ahead of schedule, to the point that I was working on a video saying we're a little ahead of schedule, just enough that it's tempting. That's the way to phrase it. It was tempting, maybe spring, but only if you rush it. Let's not turn into the video game industry where we go, well, we could get it out quarter 3 instead of quarter 4 if we do crunch time and live in the office and work until we sleep for a month. No, do not factor in crunch time. Take the time to do it right rather than rush it out 1 quarter ahead of time. What's the point? That with this added thing that they might need maybe a month tacked on, they might even be able to work it into their schedule because they were already planning to, the last month of filming was always meant to be reshoots. It might extend filming back into November, but we were so ahead of schedule that I just threw out a video saying you could do spring, but you really shouldn't rush it. All this means is that we are now definitely getting it summer of 2024. That's all it comes down to, this back and forth. These are minor concerns, and I'm not trying, why am I going back and forth? Don't believe the generic thing they said in Variety. Well, the scripts are done. The longer and more complicated thing is not for that, but for that the reshoots and rewrites are something they can work into a longer filming schedule. It isn't really a problem. 3 months out of it, they can't do rewrites out of a 6-month shoot where they usually do the reshoots at the end anyway. Not a problem. One minor difference is I used to say, because it was so early, that they would consciously avoid coming in spring. I said the earliest they would is July of 2024, right after basketball finals. And given that those usually end in early June, like maybe the last weekend in June, but like the earliest they could start the summer schedule right after basketball. Now I think, just for getting the CGI done and not rushing it, while I still think it's summer, this might slightly delay things until like first week of August, maybe, or mid-July. Not enough to push it to fall, like last week of August is fall. Just a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4 at the most. Because it's not, oh my god, they're not going to do this without rewrites and reshoots. Particularly if the strike is going to end in 3 months or so, well before filming was set to end in October. They're just going to reschedule things, shuffle things around to do the reshoots they wanted. They won't be able to do them on the fly. They'll have to plan out, well, okay, we'll come back and do that again later. And it might extend filming a month. Season 1 had an extension because of COVID delays. So this doesn't really change my mental calculus at all. I'm not really worried about this. I think we are looking at a summer 2024 release. Everyone calm down. They would not rush it through production without the rewrites they want. One minor asterisk to that. The one thing that could be affected with reshoots is exterior locations that they can't go back to when there's a time window. Like if it's, I want to reshoot a scene around the council table in the Red Keep or in Dragonstone, you can film that whenever. If it's a location shoot, case in point, season 1, all of the beach scenes that they filmed that stood in for the beaches of Dragonstone and the beaches of Driftmark, those were difficult to film, and they had to schedule it. Some of them were public places or national parks. You can't just return there. It's not 2 guys with a camera, it's a whole production set. Or like a battle scene or something, even dialogue, minor dialogue things. Filming at St. Michael's Mount was a nightmare, because it's the tidal island, and it was worth it because it's a real tidal island, like how Driftmark is described. Like when you see that little bridge, land bridge going to it, there's no CGI. That's what that castle looks like. It's really cool. And I would have, if I had a choice, I would have told them go film there despite all the restrictions. They said that we can't go back to film there in fall or something. That was the first place they filmed, in April of 2021. That there's a limited window for filming. We can't come back to do reshoots because it's not like an interior that we have in the studio. Similarly, they're not going to, whereas season 1, if they went, this scene isn't working, let's quickly rewrite it and refilm it tomorrow out of the 5 days we're on the beach here. They're not going to be able to do that this year if they, within the next 3 months. Because they're also going to be doing location filming in September. But just some of the locations that they were filming at for May through July, exterior locations, might not physically be able to refilm at. Even then, there's ways around that, though. The mental example I'm thinking of is young Rhaenyra and Laenor walking down the beach having a conversation. That is a specific beach in Cornwall that they physically wouldn't be able to return to. If they really felt they needed to rewrite such a scene, they'd switch it to being an interior scene. Or they'd move it to another exterior location they have better access to. That if it really crossed the threshold into being this dialogue is really bad and we want to completely rewrite it, they could do a reshoot just of an interior or another location they have better stuff. And really, that's the roll of the dice you always face with difficult on-set locations. Like, we're going to film on a real glacier in Iceland where there's danger of the cast having frostbite. And things like that, where you don't get... If it's such an inaccessible place that you couldn't easily refilm at it, I don't even blame that on the strike. That's just, it could have gotten rained out that day. Some locations, they even without a strike, even without a pandemic, there's some season one locations where they weren't able to do reshoots because they could only go there once, and there was heavy rain that day. So it doesn't really rise above that threshold for me that it might affect one or two scenes. Just as heavy rain really messed up, there was something they wanted to do with the royal hunt that they couldn't do because it was raining. Like, that's it. So we go, oh, this is propaganda that's really going to mess things. It wouldn't really mess things up. Guys, the strike isn't going to be that long. They were already filming through October. We were actually ahead of schedule to the point I was getting wary of people. This was adding support to a spring release. It's going to be summer of 2024. All is right with the world. There is nothing to be concerned about. Of course, due to the delayed ripple effect of a writing strike, this does mean that writing for Dunk and Egg and Season 3 is going to be on pause for 3 months. So they might not follow Season 2 in quite as rapid succession, but they were already slated to have shorter gaps. We're used to a year-long wait between seasons anyway. Gives us more time to analyze. And I think the real thing people were worried about wasn't delays, but dear God, are they going to rush this through without the vital rewrites and reshoots they feel, and daily refinements they feel they need? As long as, Dunk and Egg starts being written after the strike is over, and they're not rushing it to be something without refinements or anything, it doesn't really matter to me. So it might delay Dunk and Egg in Season 3 a little bit, but then again, we haven't heard an official announcement about Season 3 in Dunk and Egg. I had conjecture of I think it would be out July of 2025 at the earliest, because they wouldn't put 2 seasons out in the same Emmy cycle. But that's really it. So it might push back the other shows by a season. Not really that big of a problem to me. And in terms of affecting the quality of Season 2, it's not really anything. I mean, the slight thing of the ticking clock at some of the exterior locations in the first half of filming, which they can fix with rewrites and interior scenes or whatever. This isn't really a concern to me. And if anything, I'm going to split this off into its own video. If anything, this is good news, because I just read a bunch of articles that were posted all day about this. Warner Discovery is the company out of the half dozen big streamers that is slated to benefit the most from this writing strike. That it will harm their competitors like Disney and Disney the most. This is good news for Warner Discovery to have a bunch of 3 weeks from now. They're launching a new merged platform with Discovery, which has a mountain of unscripted content. That you could not have planned this better. That if you were to hypothetically describe a streaming platform with their content catalog such as it is, that would not only survive but thrive during 3 months of a writer's strike, and that they're launching now, that is very good news for the health of their parent company and the platform that they're airing on, that on a scale of years, this is really going to screw with their competition. So I'm not really concerned about this. I'm going to throw out the other production videos I was working on in terms of the schedule of what's coming up, because this changed everything. But there is no reason to worry about anything. That just looking at the numbers of when they normally do reshoots at the end, they could plan this out. That it's just, we were ahead of schedule. We are looking at summer of 2024. But it really hasn't changed my mind. I always said and continue to say summer 2024 at the earliest. There is no chance of a spring release now. Why rush? There's too many problems going on. Maybe in my head I used to go probably last week of June. Now I wouldn't even put out first week of August beyond the realm of possibility. But summer of 24 is what we're looking at. And please follow me after the jump into the video where I go company by company on how is everyone going to survive this writer's strike by streaming platform.